The military and the police have a far-right problem. Across North America and Europe, far-right extremists are actively recruiting both military personnel and law enforcement officers. In Germany, extremist groups have stashed explosives and thousands of rounds of ammunition. In the US, serving soldiers are beginning to fight against the very government they're sworn to serve.
We're in the fucking Capitol, bro!
This is how the far right are using troops with state-of-the-art training and high-grade weaponry to carry out violent attacks and spread their messages. In July 2019, police in northeast Germany uncovered a huge cache of weapons belonging to Nordkreuz, an underground extremist far-right network. The stash contained over 50,000 rounds of ammunition, explosives, and body bags, as well as a list of political enemies. So far, only one member of the group has actually been imprisoned, and he only got 21 months for possession of firearms, not for his part in any larger conspiracy. And in January, federal prosecutors dropped a case against other members of the group for plotting a violent attack against the state, citing insufficient evidence.
The decision to drop the case is nothing short of scandalous. They made detailed plans for exactly what they would do, how they would round up political enemies, how they would transport them on a lorry. They had body bags, they had quicklime, they even had a special system of patches they would wear on their uniforms so they could identify other members.
No one really understands why the German authorities are so reluctant to get tough with these guys. If you compare it to the Islamist scene, they would have put them away a long time ago.
Nordkreuz was later discovered to have grown out of a huge nationwide encrypted chat network of far-right sympathizers amongst military and police personnel. This was codenamed the Hannibal Network. Founded by an officer in the KSK, the most elite unit of Germany's special forces.
We have a very small group of soldiers called the KSK. One of the guys who was a soldier for 12 to 13 years, and his codename was Hannibal, started to set up chat groups all over Germany, where he recruited people to prepare for the day X, for the uprising, for the day that right-wing people would take control of the country.
After an investigation, it was decided that the KSK had been so deeply penetrated by far-right extremists that an entire fighting unit within the KSK had to be disbanded. That's the equivalent of the US deciding to dissolve part of the Navy SEALs for having too many Nazis.
Gerade die Spezialkräfte benötigen aber ein Grundvertrauen, nicht nur ihrer politischen und militärischen Führung, sondern auch des Parlaments als ihrem Auftraggeber und der Gesellschaft insgesamt.
Special forces, usually, you use them, send them behind enemy lines and cause mayhem. So this is really like a nightmare. Those guys are the last guys you want to turn into right-wing guys because they have this special knowledge about weapons, about explosives, about tactics. They have a lot of good connections in the security apparatus. It's very easy for them to get information, to get blueprints of buildings and all that. It's a real nightmare.
Meanwhile, in Belgium, a soldier triggered a 35-day manhunt in 2021 after stealing 4 rocket launchers, several guns, and threatening to attack the country's leading virologist in response to COVID restrictions. And in the UK, a British soldier who vowed he would die committed to the white race was jailed for being a member of the neo-Nazi terrorist group National Action. He'd been trying to recruit fellow soldiers into the group in preparation for a race war.
We know that this is a problem that has existed for a long time in multiple ways. The whole point of infiltration is for it not to become public knowledge and for us not to become aware of it.
All this raises serious concerns for national security. So far, though the far right have infiltrated forces and some individual military personnel may harbor extremist views, security services themselves have stayed loyal and followed orders. But some experts have begun to wonder what might happen when extremist beliefs come into direct conflict with their orders.
It undermines the legitimacy of both the military and law enforcement. It's hard to say you have a democratic institution when you have active neo-Nazis making up that institution who are interested in undermining the government or essentially advocating for various kinds of vigilante violence.
And these concerns have historic precedent. During Germany's Weimar Republic, right-wing military units attempted to overthrow the government. And one of the turning points in the lead up to the Spanish Civil War was when fascist commanders became willing to attack Spanish civilians as if they were a foreign enemy.
The potential is that they're going to have access to some of the most high-powered weapons and be potentially involved in active combat situations where that mindset may really cloud their behavior, and even to the point of not only posing a threat to others, but internally, it's an insider threat as well.
This is a standard military procedure for clearing a building, which would be instantly recognizable to any US soldier. But here, it's being deployed against the US government itself.
DC police officer witnessed some rioters using military-style hand signals to communicate.
Small unit tactics used by the US military in urban warfare.
In fact, 1 in 10 of those charged with storming the Capitol was either serving in the military or a veteran. And there are similar groups right across the US, such as the 3 Percenters, another far-right militia known for their large contingent of police and military veterans. Disturbingly, the authorities have been aware of this threat for a long time.
By 2006, the FBI had actually recognized this issue. They authored a report about white supremacist infiltration into law enforcement specifically. And they focused on this idea of what they called ghost skins. The basic idea of a ghost skin is people to do, cover up your tattoos, grow your hair out, basically hold the same beliefs, but mobilize in a more secretive fashion. Unfortunately, that FBI report was shelved. And even now, more recently, the FBI have essentially de-emphasized the relevance of the report.
In February 2021, the Pentagon released a report on the issue of white supremacists infiltrating serving military units. But they've so far failed to take meaningful action. This is not an accident. Extremist groups go out of their way to cynically recruit and exploit military and law enforcement personnel, and they know how to do it.
They may be having to deal with PTSD and traumas related to if they've been in combat. And just generally, anytime you have to reintegrate into society from another way of life, that's always going to be somewhat difficult. And what the far right will offer a veteran trying to reintegrate into society is they will valorize their service uncritically, unquestionably. They will give them the thing that we're all looking for, which is acknowledgement, respect.
There may well also be something in military and police cultures themselves that leaves them exposed to right-wing infiltration, and, crucially, to cover it up when it occurs.
Because these institutions, again, historically, have been very much kind of white, male, heterosexual dominated institutions. It doesn't mean every individual who's white, male, heterosexual in the military or police is a misogynist or a homophobe or a white supremacist, but it does create a certain kind of climate, culture within these institutions that has certain parallels to the far right.
This time, the insurrection failed. If the infiltration of the military and security services is allowed to continue, next time, the outcome could be much, much more dangerous.